Hi everybody, this is Trish from Art Journal Junkie. The other day my local craft store owner asked me why I was buying the Prima Tropicals. She knew that I had the Jane Davenport and the neutral sets, and she felt that perhaps they had similar colours. Nevertheless, I purchased the Tropicals, came home, and I swatched them onto the card. But you know, that got me thinking, what if they all had the same colours? Had I perhaps been hasty in my purchase? So I took a look and obviously tried to compare what colours I had in which tin. Oh, ignore that middle row, those are just half pans that I filled myself with some Winsor & Newton colours that I really like. And you know, in the neutrals, I sort of thought that perhaps there were only 2 or 3 of the colours that might be in the Tropicals. Anyway, grabbed out my little swatch book on the left-hand side and decided I was going to do a test drive of each colour and try and match them as close as possible from the 3 different palettes. The first that I'm going to do is just swatch out the Tropicals on the left hand side. I've played around in my journal, playing with just the colours there to see how they looked on a stamped card, and I really enjoy them. I must say I'm very happy that I've bought this set. So I'm going to pop them down the one side, putting them on quite heavily initially and then pulling it out with water. So I'll speed up this section and then come back when I start comparing the Jane Davenport ones. I'm back. Right, so I've popped the colours down underneath my Prima Tropicals heading, and I'm going to take a look and see if I can match them up with the Jane Davenport colours. That left-hand side is still a little bit wet, and I don't want to use a dryer. I want them to dry as normally or as naturally as possible. So the first colour in the Tropicals is called Pineapple. That's this lovely, lovely yellow. By the way, the paper that I'm using is a 300 gram Fabriano watercolor paper, which I've cut down and made into an insert for my traveler's notebook. This way, when I go to the shops, if I remember, I can take it with me and check the colors that I have. I also have one for acrylics and one for pens and one for pencils. So on the tropical side we've got the pineapple, and I think the mango on the neutrals palette is possibly the closest. You can see it still has, it's a little bit darker, but once it was dry I looked at it and there was quite a difference. I must say that both of them are absolutely gorgeous. The next one down on the Tropicals list is Hibiscus. Beautiful, beautiful red. Not pillar box red and not too magenta. I think it's quite an orangey colour, but in the JD palette of vitamin C, the vitamin C was a lot brighter, more orangey. And then I tried the Ladybug, I think it was. No, I beg your pardon, I pulled out the apple. I'm really struggling here. Yeah. And then I pulled out the apple, which is a little bit redder and with a bit more of a magenta tinge. The next color down on the tropical side is called Patea, number 19. Lovely red with a magenta tinge to it. Sort of reminds me of maybe a bit of a brighter rose madder. Now there's nothing that compares with the Prima Tropicals Patea from Jane's palette. When I say compare, please, I'm not actually comparing apples with apples here, and I'm not saying one is worse off than the other or better than the other. I'm just trying to see what colors I have in the different palettes. So this is Ladybug that I've used here. I love Ladybug. Beautiful color, not quite the same as the tropical, similar. And then I thought, well, perhaps if it wasn't the Ladybug, perhaps it might be Frida. So I tried that as well, but neither of them were the same as the tropicals. And Frida was quite a close match against the Prima Tropicals Sunset. There is nothing in the Jane palette that remotely looks like Parrot from the tropicals. Parrot is quite a yellowy green color, more sort of yellow with a tinge of green, and it's not lime, it's like a, oh man, almost a khaki, but like a luminous khaki. And the only thing close is Jiminy from Jane's palette, and I love Jiminy. Then looking at the palms, which is number 18 from the tropicals, a lovely, lovely green. Nothing like that in the Jane palette. Something similar is Mermaid, but it's more on the blue side, and it probably matched the Island, number 13 from the tropicals. Of course, Jane's blues are to absolutely die for, and tropicals don't come anywhere near to Jane's beautiful butterfly and 70s eyeshadow that I have in the brights. I must say Blueberry is from the neutrals palette, not my favorite, but it has its place, and I can see it's not my favorite because it hasn't been used much. In the Tropicals Ocean, number 23, I think Ink from, is it Ink? Yes, it is Ink, from Jane's palette is comparable, but Ink has a very different way of drying. You'll see it at the back end of this video. I'll show you a close-up of how they've all dried. And it is a very different type of blue. Nevertheless, I enjoy all of them, I must say. I also tried out Blueberry, and Blueberry doesn't match up to the Ocean from Tropicals. In the Tropicals palette, they call this purple Reef, and I remember there is a reef in Jane's palette, but it's not purple. Actually, there isn't reef. Why do I seem to think there's a reef? Oh. Never mind. So in the purple of Reef, we've got Royal from Jane and perhaps Mystic, those two. Beautiful, beautiful purple, this Royal from Jane's palette. Absolutely, really regal purple, really regal. And then finally, the Tropicals Coconut, which is not quite yellow, not quite ochre, not quite sand. I've popped it down the bottom. The only thing in Jane's palette is sand, which is completely different, and I don't mind that. In fact, I use sand a lot when I'm doing my whimsical faces. And there are two browns in the Jane palette. One is spice. Well, there are three. There's cocoa, there's kiss kiss, and spice. I'm using spice and kiss kiss to test against the Tropicals palette called Tiki. And I must say that I'm quite impressed with that, with all of these colors and, you know, the different palettes. Absolutely fantastic. Yep, so at the end of the day, I really can't compare either of these brands of watercolors, as I think it would be quite unfair. You know, each has got its own special palette, each has got its own beautiful color. Both are highly pigmented. That's the one thing they both have going for me. And every color in the palette reacts differently, I think. And please, I'm no expert here, but I think they react differently with the amount of water used. So what I can tell you is that I probably will be putting all of these together and using them interchangeably, because they get a 10 out of 10 thumbs up, every single one of these colors from me. So people, thank you very much for watching this little video, and if you've enjoyed it, please consider giving me a thumbs up and come across to Facebook. Join us on Art Journal Junkie. We have more than 14,000 members, all of whom are apt that this has helped you to also make up your mind. Go and buy those watercolors. Life's too short. Enjoy them and have fun. Until next time, take care. Bye for now.